here's something I haven't seen for quite a while. An old friend of mine that is in an amazingly beautiful condition, beautiful shape. It's been kept very well. And if there are any blemishes on any guitar, that's okay with me, because it tells me something of their life. They begin to have a life the moment they're born and leave the workshop. So already, how many years is this? 95, I don't know, 20 odd some years. So it's pretty amazing to look at something that has kept itself pretty well. This guitar brings back a lot of memories. This is a very important guitar for me for several reasons, and those reasons are, it begins with the name itself, the Rocket Convertible. The Rocket Convertible was an idea that incorporates two different concepts into one guitar. When I was building this guitar, this was not the actual intended guitar for the Blue Collection at the time. The intended guitar that I was contracted for was a Radio City in blue. And I was building that guitar and got to the finish, actually. I finished that guitar. But alongside of that, I was doing an experiment. I was conducting an experiment with Archtop guitar in my effort to try and bridge a gap between archtops and flat top guitars. So this all began, I think, going back to one of my earliest experiences with a guitar, building my first guitar around 1965. And I also had a Martin D18 at the time. And what I noticed about them is, if I would sit there and put my ear right on the side of the guitar, there was a sound there that I wanted to hear. I was hearing something that I'm not normally hearing. So how could I get that sound out of the guitar in the most sensible way? And one thing to bear in mind at that time is you're bucking against tradition, and tradition means expectation. So what is the consumer, what is the guitar player, what are they used to seeing? What are they not used to seeing? And so if I was ever going to attempt to make something with a side sound like this, it would have to be something that would be not only acceptable, but it would have to be playable, and it would have to have merit to be there. So musicians, guitar players are just not used to seeing this idea at the time, so it was very new. But the attempt to build a guitar in this condition was going to be an experiment. It was not going to be an ordered instrument. So I was building it on my own time on the side, just to prove the idea and to find out exactly, because it hadn't been done before. It had not been done yet, to my knowledge, that what would happen if you began to put holes in the guitar. Now, right now, it's all closed up, and that was the idea. That was the convertible part of it, that I could put the top down, open it up, so I could open up any of the holes and experiment with the idea and see if it really worked. I wouldn't know until I built the guitar. So I was able to open and close any of the holes independently, open or close. And I was finding out that this projection to the side to the musician was what I was after. On an archtop guitar, one of the peculiarities of it is that it projects very well. An F-hole archtop guitar especially is going to focus and project the sound forward easily. Now, the musician who's playing behind that idea is not going to get the same sound that's going out front to the musician. And that was one of the objectives, is how could I get this in sort of a monitor kind of a way, but I didn't want to alter the sound coming off the front of it, because now you have two projections of sound that are equally important. So that was the experiment. So the rocket part of the guitar was now dealing with an oval or elliptical type of sound hole that enabled me to rearrange the layout of the tone bars according to the bridge. Everything begins at the bridge, and then from there on down, it's a transfer of information. How much of that information you can keep and hold it and spread it into the guitar and make it work the way you want it to work. So to increase the dynamic range and make it more balanced, from the bass to the trebles, this was the rocket half of the guitar. So the rocket convertible was this. So I was building this guitar alongside of the Radio City, thinking that there's going to be 20 odd F-hole archtop guitars coming from the pretty much traditional bent or approach to the archtop guitar. And here I the history of the round or oval hole archtop actually predates the F-hole version. So going back historically, there was this form of the archtop guitar that had been forgotten about, really. So through the years, the F-hole archtop guitar became very prominent and widely used. So the oval hole archtop really didn't reach its development, its potential. And in that respect, I wanted to, again, bring it back into this bridge between the archtop and the flat top, because a lot of my background came from flat top. And in doing so, I wanted to remove the quote-unquote jazz box idea, because I felt it was too limiting to the guitar. Here we have, in a more modern approach, a more intimate type of guitarist, and a more sensitive and more articulated approach to fingerstyle on the archtop guitar, which in the classic old archtops, it's a hit or miss whether it works or not. There are many factors that come into play to allow that to happen to its fullest, and that would be the musician, the musician's touch, the approach, the music itself, the application, the recording. All these things would come into play. So some of that I felt could be more directly avoided by going after an oval hole concept and refining that idea. So that's what this was about. I called Scott and said, okay, there's going to be all these F-hole guitars. What about the oval hole archtop? I said, I've been working on this experiment, and quite honestly, it's very successful. The idea works. How about we switch horses midstream here, and we'll make the rocket convertible the blue guitar. Okay, so he agreed to that, and that's the way it worked out.